Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Subject Matter. I'm your host, Stephen Jenkins, here with your co-host, Mr. Jonathan Dayton. Actually, no, I'm not at all hosting with Jonathan today. He is presumably at home, and I am in my recording studio here getting ready to edit this podcast. But we didn't film an intro for this episode of the podcast because it is, in fact, part 2 of the previous episode where the conversation went for so long and it was so perfect that we just decided to split it in 2 rather than giving you an hour-long episode. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Last week's episode, or I should say 2 weeks ago, was a great episode. I recommend you go back and watch it. We discussed a couple of hypothetical questions. We have some more today. Let us know what you think down in the comment section about all of them. Like I said, if you haven't seen the previous episode, go watch it. And if you've already seen it, then go watch it again, because it's just that freaking good. And that's about all I have to say before I stop rambling. Everybody knows I like to talk too much, but the only thing I do have to say, and I know people get tired of me saying it all the time, but I have to, at least for this episode, I apologize for the audio quality of this episode. I really do. Jonathan's mic cut out about halfway through the previous episode, and we didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. So his voice is probably going to have to be boosted, which may boost my voice, and then it'll blow out your eardrums, and I apologize for that. So just put on some earmuffs and enjoy the episode, and I'm going to stop rambling now. Enjoy the intro. Let's really quick. Let's just choose one other item from top 10, not in any specific order that we know we'd want to do. Ooh. Michael?
I've always thought buying Rhode Island would be kind of cool, but that's not really...
He's going to have a private island and a Rhode Island.
But that's obviously not something you can technically do with the money. I don't think you can just buy a state.
So, there's a possibility you could. If you convinced... So, the Constitution, there's ways that counties can break off from states. Of course, it has to go through Congress, and if you put enough PAC money behind lobbying for that to happen, I think you could pay off enough state senators and citizens and congressional members to vote in a way that would allow you to
be a little shady, but yeah.
Depends how much money you have, but if you divide it up enough, I think you could garner enough votes to do that.
Okay.
That's cool. I will say, honestly, I don't know why I didn't just say this earlier, but get a nice house.
Yeah.
A house that fits just what I want.
I assumed your private island would feature a house.
It does,
but I don't want to necessarily live on the island because everyone else is going to be here, because a lot of people are not welcome on my island, by the way. I've thought about my island quite a lot. But I think just getting like a nice house building a house. I'd want to build my own house how I want it to be, and like just make it a nice house, like a really good foundation.
Yeah.
Customize everything the way I want it to be. Have like, one of those bookcases that you just pull this book and it unlocks the door to go into like a private game room or something along those lines. Just make it a really nice house. I think that's a good
and that's going to be my answer, actually. Specifically somewhere secluded in the wilderness next to a stream of water. Something like you see, there's a lot of pictures going around right now, like of the fall in the mountains somewhere.
Bingo.
Nice view. I would want there, specifically in the house, to be featured some sort of secret tunnel that takes you to a completely separate house somewhere else that only I know about.
That's DC. Tunnels, cool. There's tunnels all under Congress.
Right. Yep. But yeah, that'd be mine.
So, we're all laughing because of a side joke made that you're not going to hear about.
An inside joke.
I would also say house. Somewhere in the mountains, maybe Montana, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, somewhere big.
Yeah, Montana was where I was thinking, yeah.
Montana is
nice.
Overly big, but I would love a small basketball court, a small tennis court, a place I can go bowling.
Not too big.
Arcade.
Yeah.
Not like it's gonna be like 100,000 square feet. And it had to have like 15 bathrooms.
But you want a nice house.
Have stuff that I like to do within that house, and have guests over. Ranch, land, stream, hunting, fishing, things like that. That I would want enough land and a big enough house to do all that.
I want a big house with a lot of rooms, because like some big houses are just super open. They don't have many rooms. It's super open.
Yeah.
I want a big house with a lot of rooms.
Yeah,
I don't want too big though, because then sometimes you just like realistically, are you always going to have
get
people in your
lost
house?
in my house?
See, I'm not quite like that. I want a good size. Like, I'd probably, like, most bedrooms, I would say, like, 7.
Yeah, I was saying 8. I was saying like 8.
8's fine. Just no more than a certain number, because then you reach a point where you're wasting space. Because I feel like most people with a house that size are going to end up being in like the same 3 rooms. Yeah. They're going to find the rooms they like, and they're just going to migrate from one to the other, and that's going to be pretty much it.
My room's that purpose. So like I just need 1 bedroom, 1 guest bedroom, and a couple bedrooms to have kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fine. But the other rooms that I would want are like, I'd like an outdoor room that I could store stuff in. I'd like Addie would want like a craft room that she could store stuff in. So I wouldn't classify them as bedrooms. I would classify them as practical rooms.
That's
sheer bedrooms for the kids, bedrooms for me and my wife, and like a guest bedroom, maybe 1 or 2 for some guests to bring over. That's sufficient.
No, I agree with that. I wouldn't need, when I say bedroom, I just mean like general rooms.
I get you. So like,
I'd want like
I think
a game room or something like that.
Eight is like fair, and like 3 or 4 bathrooms. I think is plenty big.
I think that is one other thing. I would honestly say every bedroom I want to have a bathroom.
Bathroom attached.
Yes, because that's really nice. Like if you have people over and they're in this bedroom that doesn't have a bathroom, they have to go somewhere else. But if they just have their own, it's so much comfier, and it's just I just think that's really nice. That's something I've wanted, like when I ever build a house in real life and not a hypothetical, I want every bedroom to have its own bathroom, because I feel like that's just going to make things so much nicer.
I like it.
Okay, so for the final question of the day, and there was a little bit of a sidebar there, as there always is, but I thought it was an interesting question to ask. So I've gone back and forth about what mine would be. And my original question was basically going to be, what superpower would you choose if it was like base level superpower? And I'm not going to ask that because we've already kind of discussed it, superpower wise. But my new question is going to be, and I have to give the caveats here because this is very important to me as a science fiction connoisseur. Okay, would you rather be able to travel forward in time or backward in time? Now, here's the caveat. 1, obviously, if you travel forward in time, you're going to be able to come back to the present. It's not like you get travel forward and you're stuck there. Same thing, you travel back to the past, you're able to come back to the present. The other caveat here is that through time traveling, you are capable, anything you do can change stuff. In other words, if you travel back to the past, and anything you do can have effects on the future. It's not like only if you choose for it to affect the future. Anything you do can have an effect on the future. And there are no time loops where like you go back and you accidentally cause your parents to meet, like that type of thing. It's whatever you do changes stuff. Likewise, if you go to the future and you learn a whole bunch of things and you come back to the present, your actions in the present can then change the future that you saw. So if you go into the future and you see a great future, and then you come back and you tell everybody about it, you run the risk of erasing that future. Likewise, if you go to the future and you see a terrible future, you have the option to come back and try to prevent it. What are your thoughts?
Ooh. That's a good question.
See, that is a good question. And I've thought about this a good bit before. So, clarifying question.
Mm-hmm.
If I go back in time to a certain time period and I mess something up, could that like make me not be born? Could it kill me?
The only thing that changing things can't, so when you got back to the present, no one would remember you.
Okay, so I wouldn't die.
You wouldn't die, but you would be erased from existence.
Okay. I feel like that alone is enough to make me not choose past. I think in terms of, if it was just which would you rather get to experience without any repercussion, I would pick past. Because I would go back to like biblical times. That'd be where I want to go. I just think that'd be great.
Yeah. Poland Spring, not a sponsor, but they could be.
Anyway. But I think that... It totally threw me off.
I'm sorry.
I think going back in the past would be really, really cool. But because it has that risk, that's not good. If I chose... I'll just say right off the bat, I guess, I will choose future. Because there are too many things that could go wrong with choosing the past. As much as I would like to see the past and see how things were and compare it to where we are now, I think that it's just more dangerous than going to the future. Because if I go to the future and I come back, I'm good. Where I am right now is good. I just now have more knowledge of what's going to happen. One thing with that, I would not go super far in the future. I would only go 15, maybe 20 years in the future. Because if you go too far, things get really bad. Now, can I just come back whenever I want?
I'd say, yeah, you can just do it at will. You're not like stepping. I'm going to say another caveat is you don't have a time machine. It can't get broken. It's just you kind of just like sit there, think about it, and you activate your ability.
And it's just a one and done. You go there, you come back, one and done.
Well, that's the other question too, because then if you let's say you can do this as you have the ability, so you can do this as many times as you want, and you always return to the moment that you left. Mm-hmm. So in that instance, let's say you go back to the past and you change something, you come back to the present. Oh, nobody remembers me. You do have the option to go back to the past and try to set it straight.
Okay. I think I'd still choose future.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wouldn't go that far in the future because I feel like no one needs to know the future that much in advance. I feel like that could really change things. Plus, then if something really bad happens, you yourself are going to be super paranoid about it. And if you share it with someone, then they're going to be paranoid, and it can just send the world into chaos without you trying to. Now, if you see something, if you jump ahead, let's just say like 5 years, a short period of time, and you see, oh, hey, World War III started, like, realistically, when you come back, no one's going to necessarily believe you. And, like, they may not take what you say. Obviously, if things start to play out and you were the one who, like, said, hey, this is going to happen, then they might. But, like, then you just get into a whole plethora of issues and bad things. Mm-hmm. Like, the government's going to want you for their own purposes, and in general, your life's going to be in danger. Everything is just going to fall apart. So if I did it at all, like if I can just choose, mm-hmm. I may choose to do nothing because I don't want to mess anything up. But if I could do it, I would only go a little bit into the future for a brief period of time just to see the things like how far technology's come and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But realistically, I would just be incredibly cautious because as cool as I think it'd be even more so dangerous, and that's just like not something I think needs to be messed with.
Mm-hmm. John?
Clarifying question.
Yep.
If you get back in time or even in the future, you're the only person that can affect the future, so that you can't like get multiple people to change something. So
anything. Well, I will say this: the butterfly effect is real.
Okay.
So do you understand the butterfly effect?
Okay.
So let just for the listeners, let me quickly explain the butterfly effect. It's the idea that if you go back 100 years and you step on a butterfly, you kill that butterfly. Minor thing for the time, but then a ripple starts to happen where all of a sudden, okay, now a little girl who was picking flowers didn't get distracted by that butterfly to save her from getting hit by a bus. So now she grows up to be this terrible person and kills a whole bunch of people, and then like it gets progressively worse and worse and worse and worse until that little butterfly gets killed, and all of a sudden it means World War IV happens in 2005. That type of thing.
And it does not have to be a butterfly. That's just changing any very minor detail, bumping into someone on the street.
If your parents met because your dad gave her the last straw, right? And you go back in time and you take the last straw too soon, and they refill the straw, so now he doesn't have a straw to give her, now you don't exist. Does that make sense? Yep. Like that type of thing.
Yeah.
So, I agree with Michael, 98.5%. Because I like the way you thought about not going in the future too far because you're afraid you're messing something up, and if you don't really want to see like bad things happen because you're paranoid. So, across the say, just a quick 10-second story was we used to talk about genetics and doing testing to figure out what diseases and things you may have later in life. Same thing applies in that situation. I don't think I would want to go in the future too far either because, at some point in time, either I'm going to die or my wife's going to die, my child's going to die, or something might happen, parents are going to die, and I don't want to know that and know when, and then then spend the rest of my life trying to figure out how I can prevent that, mm-hmm. right? It's inevitable, like people are going to die, right? But I would be paranoid that I'm like, okay, now what can I do to prevent that from happening? Mm-hmm. And I would spend my life always worrying and not actually living.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's why I wouldn't choose the future. I would choose the past. Now, I think I'm always been a history buff, especially U.S. history. I think that it'd be really cool to go back and see 1800s, early 1900s, and see how people lived back then, kind of experience it yourself. I think that'd be really cool. Now, would I actually do anything in those times, or would I just go back to kind of observe and then come back? I don't know, because this random scenario popped in my head. I'm thinking, well, if I go back in time and like John Wilkes Booth killed Abraham Lincoln, would I just like take out John Wilkes Booth and he would still be around? Like, would I do stuff that I know that was really bad in history? Would I prevent that? Maybe. But then on the flip side is we wouldn't be to where we're at now, which is good too. What stopping that bad acts from happening? What would the ripple effect, butterfly effect, be to the present? We wouldn't be teaching some things in history because I prevented it. People wouldn't have degrees and programs wouldn't be started because I prevented things in history from happening, bad things from happening. Great foundations wouldn't start because I prevented bad things from happening. So it's a caveat there. So as much as I think going in the future and really seeing what happens is something that I would love to do, I would travel back. But same thing with Michael, I would be torn. As far as I would go back further, but I'd be really torn though as to the actions that I do. Would I take any action on anything, or would I just go back to observe and then come back to the present?
And my issue with that too, though, is like you may just go back to observe, but things can still go wrong. Like just because you think you have a plan for how you're going to go back and just watch stuff, things can still go wrong. Like
True.
You dress how they do, you walk around on the street like they do, but even that could just cause something like super minor that could change things, which is my issue, because I just don't think time needs to change at all.
I would like to live this, like I wouldn't go back and like live for a year and flip back. I go back, see it, come back like at 5 minutes at a time. Now you're right though, but you're still right though. Something I'm doing there could most certainly affect the future.
The 5 minutes at a time is like, I think that's good.
But
I think that's a good idea.
I wouldn't go back and like live there for like a month and then.
Oh sure,
yeah. I wouldn't think anyone would do a month. That seems a bit extreme.
But you're right though. You still would be cautious. I would still walk on eggshells, and I wouldn't do anything hugely impactful because again, I would be afraid that it's going to impact the future, and it could definitely impact my future. Likelihood, probably not, but it still could.
Yeah.
I think because if the caveat would be different, I would go to the past because I'd like to experience past more. Because I am such a paranoid believer in the butterfly effect. Honestly, I would choose the future because especially the further back you go, the worse that butterfly effect is going to be because it's had that much time for extra ripples. You go back yesterday and you step on a butterfly, nothing's going to happen. Realistically, pretty much nothing is going to happen. However, you go back 2,000 years and you step on a butterfly, then that butterfly being dead has had time to ripple through those 2,000 years. And every change, it's exponential. Every change makes something else happen. Just because
it's like a tree.
Just because that little girl didn't see the butterfly, that might affect two things because multiple things interact with each other.
And then those two things may affect 18 other things, and it just keeps going.
It gets compounded.
Yeah.
And my concern would be that I get back in time, and I'm not going to be able to enjoy it because I feel a hand on my shoulder, and it's me saying, hey, true. By the way, don't change that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, now I can't even get to experience the fun that I wanted, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so I think that would be my biggest concern of not being able to enjoy it, and also being, even if I could, being so afraid that I'd change something. As much as I would love to go back and solve mysteries, who was Jack the Ripper? What did actually happen to Amelia Earhart? Who actually shot JFK? Like that type of thing would be really cool to figure out. But I also don't know what I'd do with that information, and I don't know how I would go. It'd be cool to know for myself.
Because no one may believe you. Like they're probably just going to call you crazy. Like,
right.
People really close to you may believe you, but that's not going to make that much of a difference.
Right. Exactly. And so I would go to the future because I'm very interested. I love in movies where like somebody sees something from the future, and they're like trying all their life to figure out how to stop it, and then it starts to happen, and like, oh no, and then they are able to change it at the last second or things like that.
But then that becomes your entire life. You don't even get to live in the present or experience.
That is true.
Your life is no longer your own. It is based off of paranoia.
That's true.
Of something else happening.
But it's not necessarily.
Now, if that doesn't bother you, more power to you.
It might not.
But that would really
I'm not sure
bother
if it
me.
would bother. It might start to bother me at some point. But I feel like I'm already kind of thinking about the future all the time anyway.
I am too, but it's comforting knowing that I don't know exactly what's going to happen because then I can never be like sure of it.
But at the same time, if you went back to the past all the time, wouldn't you also be living in the past?
You would be, but you'd also get to be experiencing things.
But that's the thing,
I don't think going in the past is going to be great because I still think there are plenty of issues. I think they're both bad. I just think that the future is bad because you have to come back to this time and you have to live out that time period. If you go to the past, you come straight back and you're here, and then you still have the future ahead of you. So there's the difference there.
I respect that.
It's because if you go to the past, you'd have the paranoia like when you're there of things, but you wouldn't come back and then live paranoia in your present day life, which in my opinion is like that is your life. That is where you belong. That's my issue.
And I can see that. I think for me too, because I never said you couldn't bring anything back with you.
True.
I mean, like if I wanted to bring back future technology for myself and myself only, I could do that if I wanted to. And I think and I think too in that you can also, because like you said, I don't really necessarily care about changing the future as much as I care about changing the present. Especially if I see a future that's terrible, I'm like, listen, I'm going to take some of this technology and I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to use it and I'm going to become a millionaire for the rest of my life and then I don't have to worry about it. Maybe that's not morally correct necessarily.
I think it's fine.
I'm going to be changing the past anyway just by coming back to it. So, and I think, too, I think I would be most interested in this scenario in enjoying being able to see what happens. And also
this is assuming that it's good at all. I mean, you may go ahead even just 2 years and say, oh, we're in World War III and the United States is massacred. Like, that may just be miserable.
But then I think, to me, even I understand the idea of being paranoid and not wanting to live off of that, but at the same time, then, you can prepare in some way.
This is true.
I'm not necessarily going to go in the future and see, this is when so-and-so dies, I need to prevent this. Some people I might, not necessarily based on person, but more likely how. If a family member dies of old age, I'm going to respect that. If somebody dies in a car crash that shouldn't have happened, I might try to prevent that.
You might try.
I might try to prevent that.
Oh no. Anyway.
There's Melanie.
So, my last question.
She was really nice.
We can wrap up. So, can you take stuff back to the future from the present?
Yeah. If you can do future to past, I think you should do past to present.
Past to present, yeah. But
can you take stuff from like current day age to past?
Oh,
okay.
That's dangerous.
That'll change things quicker than anything else.
Give Einstein a phone and he'll figure it out in like 3 minutes. So
give what?
Give Einstein a phone. I think someone did the research and like he could actually figure it out like super quick.
AR-15 bulletproof vest, like a tank and a military jet. Just think, give it to George Washington. Here you go.
Imagine
witch and then burn you is what he's gonna do.
Imagine rocking up to like a jousting match with a bazooka.
Yeah.
Witch.
And that's one that
you don't know in the future, but that would
see. I think it'd be awesome to see that stuff in some simulation, but then you think about like the repercussions of that. I think it'd be insane.
It'd be drastic.
Like if you go back and you use a bazooka in a jousting match, you're going to become one of those myths that people talk about, and it's going to just change everything.
Right.
Like
Well,
terrible.
And a lot of people in this scenario are going to choose neither because there's dangers and there's negatives.
Yeah. I think there are pros and cons to both. I just think it comes down to what you're more content living with.
I think for me, I'd be too paranoid about the past. I'd have to choose one of them because I'd be far too curious, and I've always wanted to time travel, so I couldn't pass it up.
Can I just choose not to have the power at all?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
If I have it, can I give it to someone else, or do I just have it?
It's just you.
Because you
can't take anybody. You can't take anybody with you either. You can't take anybody.
No. I wouldn't want to do that anyway. That's like terrible.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, that was good.
This is a fun episode.
This was very enjoyable.
Leave your comments below.
Let us know what was the first. So let us know whether you would choose between the portals and the super speed, based on the caveats that we suggested.
And practicality. It's based off of practicality.
Based off of practicality and the caveats that he suggested. And I think the way it's phrased, the caveat is practicality.
Yeah.
And then let us know with Jonathan's, especially if you would choose to be president. Let us know. Because we'd like to hear what you guys would think about being president, what you would do there. And let us know whether you would choose, with the caveats, obviously, to go forward or backward in time, and how you would do that, and what all you would do with that ability. We're going to see how long this episode is. It was we were hoping to go for about 30 minutes.
Maybe
but
maybe 2 parts.
We could do a 2-parter. That would save on the schedule-wise, but... that would be a good one. So let us know down in the comments what your...
Leave them hanging, go through questions.
What's your...
2 people answer, cut the third one off.
Right. I feel like we're going to record an outro for the second episode after this if we end up doing that. So, but, let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching and subscribing and all that. And as always, we don't have an outro. We'll see you later. Hypothetically, what would be an outro for us? See you next week. What?